Would you rather, everyone, Charlie, Heath, would you rather get out of our group playing to our stereotypes, sitting back, hitting them on the counter, and scoring only on set pieces, but not really demonstrating? I think there's some context here. Not really demonstrating that we've grown as a nation, that we've evolved in some way, that we've added this level of sophistication where all the rest of the nations, the ones that win World Cups regularly, say, holy ish, these guys, there's something brewing here. Okay? Or would you rather play unbelievable, aesthetically pleasing, dominating teams and just get a little unlucky and not get out of the group?
You know the answer to that. Don't give me that. Get out of the group at all costs.
Yep.
That's how we advance. America does not like losers.
But isn't
you're
there
going
isn't
to
there
gain more eyes, more attention, more
you damn loser, you loser
energy.
of a question.
Oh no, let's play great and bounce. No.
Listen,
I advance.
One of the reasons I asked is the Jurgen Klinsmann, and he said what you guys said. But one of the reasons I asked him was because he had promised this aesthetically swashbuckling style, right? That's what he promised us, or he was going to help develop that. And and when you get into these tough games, to your point, we've all played in these big games. You just got to do what you got to do to get through it and get a result and get the hell out of there. I get that. But there's a part of me, the romantic side of me, that wants to do that wants to play, that at least demonstrates that we can run with anybody and not just survive, but actually be proactive. And I want us to graduate from that reactive.
I would say against Spain, when we beat them, Heath, do you think at the game we were thinking, man, we didn't really play our game. We didn't really get too many touches, or were we like, hey, I'll play like that all day if we get wins like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. It was that second answer. And I also think, oddly, this talented group of players that we're seeing now is the exact reason why I think we will be better off than we were before. We have a better national team than we've ever had before in terms of potential, right? Now, some of those things that we questioned, like, does this team have the fight? We saw in 2018, the question was the fight. Do they have the leadership? Do they have the ability to go out and find a way to get results? With this group, they found a way to go through those tough times and qualify, right? When we look back at Nations League, we look back at Gold Cup, is anybody talking about how we played Mexico off the park? No. I don't know if we'll ever play Mexico off the park. We've had good segments. We've had good wins against Mexico. But what we're talking about is find a way to get a result. Now, incrementally, we're going to see through MLS academies, player development go up. Players, broadening the player pool, go up, go up, go up. Now, eventually, we're going to have to get to a point where it's incremental growth in terms of the way that we implement our style. But also, what I would say is when we compare ourselves, Jimmy, to other countries, there is a cultural DNA to the way in which we play. But in the U.S., that's going to be a challenge, right? We've got everything from cultural influences from Latinos, from Hispanics. You got the African influence. You got Caribbean influence. You've got English influence. You've got all kinds of German. You've just got this melting pot of cultures that it's really hard with a vast nation like ours to say this is the way in which we play with the players that we have. Because if you look across the board, we're starting to develop a wide range of skill-based players or position-based skill sets that I think is going to help us in the future. But I'm all about getting out of the group. That to me is getting out of the group. But again, it is a really good question, because I think we could probably hone in on that question a little bit more, a little bit sharper to ask it, because what's the point? And I understand this. What's the point of just getting to the round of 16 if we're going to go into 2026? No different than we were in 2014. No different than we were in 2010. Looking back at 2002, going like, that was the best that we've ever played, and that was 20-something years ago, right? And so I do agree, at a certain point, we need to raise that bar of expectation. And again, that might come through fight, but I do think it's going to come through sort of the tides rising all ships of just general improvement of player development in the U.S., better coaches, all these things, but also just taking on that pressure of saying big or bust. And I don't think we're at that point where we're ready to go big or bust.
I would say the minimum expectation is that we fight, right? That's part of our DNA and has been from the very beginning, and we can't lose that. That's one of the things when we talk to, or at least in my generation back in the day, the former players that we go up against or during our careers, they always respected and admired the fight and the enthusiasm and the belief that we had in ourselves, even though maybe we didn't have the savvy that some of the top national teams or players do. So I don't ever want us to lose that. And of course, I want us to get through the group, because to get out of the group and then to get into a knockout situation, a win or go home situation, is going to prove to be very vital for this particular group of players as we go into 26, and it's looking like the group stages will only be 2 games long. You're automatically into the round of 32 after 2 games. You're going to be basically knocking out the whole rest of the way. So yes, getting into those win or go home situations is super important and good experience for this team. And it gives us a chance. Like anything can happen in 90 minutes. Doesn't matter who you're playing.
But I would also say not every team plays pretty, right? It depends on the match. It depends on, who's in form, who's not. Sometimes, for whatever reason, a team who is expected to have possession and create all the chances and play beautifully, pleasing to the eye as far as viewers go, but it doesn't go that way, and they have to, maybe they lose a man they through a red card, and all of a sudden you have to play in a different way just to grind and get that result. And I think when this group, because they're all individually talented and in a lot of cases on their way to brilliance, which you love to see, but as a group, just grinding. And when they can add that to their game and knowing when to turn it on and be just fighting, and then turn off and say, hey, we're the better team and we can just outplay this group. That's when I think they've mastered their skills and just playing as a team. But that's not going to happen until they get more experience.
Okay, so let's move on then to the next Would You Rather that I have for you. And if you guys are ready with something, or if anybody that's watching on the YouTubes, hit like and subscribe, and then let us know what your Would You Rather be. I've got 2 more for us to digest. And if you're listening to us on your podcast platform of choice, hit us up on Twitter, ISWT Pod. Drop us a Would You Rather. Maybe we'll answer it next week. We'd like to get some fun, speculative questions here, especially because this weekend we can break down all the games and all the players. But the main emphasis is just don't get hurt, boys. Just you know what? 1 and 2 touch. Keep the ball moving. Don't get in any tackles. Nothing stupid. All right. So that's like, okay, done. We're done with the preview. All right. Next, Would You Rather. And this is one maybe for the fans that are anti Gregg Berhalter. If we get out of the group, he's most likely going to be the guy we stick with for 2026. Even though
that's a long ways.
You think? Listen,
a long ways.
Listen, I put my flag in the ground already. I say that you cannot have this job for more than 1 World Cup cycle. I think the players need to hear a different voice. So I think he should be moving on regardless. That's my 2 cents. I said it before because we have a history of that guy getting fired within 2 years after successfully having a World Cup where they get out of a group.
Right.
And even if I ever get the job one day, I'll happily pass the baton on to the next person for the next World Cup cycle, because that should be what I think this should be the model moving forward. Anyway, that said, there is that thing. So it must be weird for the fans that really hate Gregg to then want to support the team, knowing that if they have success,
I don't think that really plays.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Oh, well, there's got to be a few out there.
I think you always put your country's success first. You deal with anything else that comes after that, but you're focused on supporting the team, hoping that they play well, and then they get through. Now, if they falter, and who's getting the finger pointed at first,
of course,
there's no doubt. But if they do really well, surprisingly well, and surprise everybody, and let's say they finish top of the group, they get a miracle, they play extremely well. They get the miracle result against England, and they finish top of the group. They beat Wales and they beat Iran, or they figured out a way to get to the top. They get into the knockout stage. Holland, Senegal, Ecuador, Qatar.
I don't think Senegal is making it, man. I think Ecuador gets second. That's just my thing. But go ahead.
Okay. I think Senegal gets through. Either way, if again, this is being the most optimistic, having the most optimistic view of all time, they get through and they're in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals. What would you say? And they lose that game. Would you automatically say, we can't do another Triple G now, another cycle? Or would you say, damn, he proved everybody wrong. This group played really well. They got exactly what they actually exceeded all expectations. Why all of a sudden would you say, we don't want to stick with that guy?
Well, at that point you would, but if there was already a model in place where there was a precedent of, hey, you do 4 years.
But that was either or. If they get through and they do well.
True. Well, yeah, okay. It was my either or.
Yes.
I feel like if that model was in place, Gregg could parlay that into a great club job, right? So he would still win. It's not like a big loss for him. And the players would get to hear a new voice. Now, I think that the 2026 job will be very enticing for a number of talented managers around the world, because being able to be a part of a World Cup that you're hosting in one of the biggest countries in the world, I think is going to be a really special thing. And I think you're going to get maybe names that wouldn't maybe be attracted to it otherwise that might be interested. That's all. I'm just throwing that out there.